Coming up on today's show, I'm very pleased to welcome back Justin Riney, the Sustainability Commercial Manager at INEOS Styrolution America, LLC. That's a mouthful. And we're going to talk about the Polystyrene Recycling Alliance. So stay tuned. Hey, welcome to the show. I'm Kurt Stahle, that plastics guy. And thanks so much for joining me today. If you're new to the show, this is where I share my almost 4 decades of plastics industry experience with you. I'll educate, interview, share case studies, showcase innovative products, and always discuss the topics and trends that affect our industry. Today's podcast is sponsored by Polystyrene, and they are inventors and manufacturers of flow-enhancing additives for multiple resin platforms. And those can be compounded or they can be added right at your equipment. These cutting-edge products are sold across Canada by my company, Simcoe Plastics Limited, where we truly have a passion for polymers. And you can visit us at simcoeplastics.com or contact us at info@simcoeplastics.com. So at the top of the year, Justin Riney came on my show to talk about the Polystyrene Recycling Alliance. There were ambitious goals and a great vision. And today, Justin is back on the show to talk about what has been accomplished in calendar 2025 and what lay ahead for the Alliance and for industry and government to continue working together to manage this great resource that we have, plastics. Justin, welcome back to the show, and thanks for being a returning guest. Can you give our audience a really quick recap of your background and the PSA?
Yeah, so first off, thanks, Kurt. Love your show. Obviously,
Thank you.
we run in the same little field here, the small world of plastics podcasts.
Yeah.
And so my background, I came out of the packaging industry, and so I've been in plastics packaging now for about 12 years, and I have been focused on sustainability in that space for most of that time. It seems like the packaging industry has been looking for solutions to the plastics problem, as they put it.
Mm-hmm.
For that entire time frame. So I've been looking at recycled content, bio-based alternatives, things like that for a long time. And I've been with INEOS Styrolution now for the last couple of years. And in that role, I am primarily focused on expanding polystyrene and ABS, SAN, ASA, any styrenic recycling. But really the biggest pressure right now from a consumer/regulatory effort is polystyrene. So that's really what I've been focused on in the last 2 years, is how do we grow polystyrene recycling in North America? And that's what the PSRA is. So it's the Polystyrene Recycling Alliance. And we are a 16-member group, hopefully going to have a couple more by the end of the year. Some bigger brands are teetering on joining, and hopefully we can get them across the finish line to really expand polystyrene recycling. And that's our whole goal.
Very cool. That's excellent. We were chatting just before we started recording the show that, our audience is building for our respective podcasts, but, neither one of us is going to be the Joe Rogan of plastics podcasting. But I think it's great. We are getting reach with our message, with the fact that plastics is a very valuable resource. We could do a tremendous amount with it. And, I'd rather talk to that very limited audience, like limited in numbers, but certainly very dedicated, than talk to a lot of people who don't care. So we really do talk to the people that care, and I think that's pretty cool for both of us. So
it's fun.
Yeah, it is. It's a real break from doing the daily grind, and I think we
really
both
is.
appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me what the Polystyrene Recycling Alliance has done this year to advance the cause.
Well, we've done a lot. We've done much more than I even thought possible when we started. I had some incredibly ambitious goals, But whenever you get multiple groups together, multiple businesses, all with different desires, demands, what have you, you always worry that you're going to get a little off task and you're going to start focusing on some things that are maybe not core to mission. But our group has been wholly focused on the core mission, which is expanding polystyrene recycling in North America. So Canada, U.S., and Mexico. And we've done a lot of work on the data side. So we hired RRS, so Resource Recycling Systems, which is a great data house if you ever need any work done to figure out what's going on in the recycling world. They do great work, and they did an access study for polystyrene. I believe we talked about this the first time I came on, but the access story, so the amount of people that have the ability to recycle at least one polystyrene item is much higher than we thought it was going to be when we did the study. We thought it was going to be incredibly low, but nearly 1/3 of Americans have the ability to recycle one form of polystyrene, and that's 105 million Americans. And it's way, way higher than we thought it was going to be. And so, but at the same time, we need to get that to 60%. Because the 60% is when you can start to claim, per the FTC, that it's widely recycled. And that's where we want to be. And not just widely recycled, we want to get beyond that. We want to be way higher than where we're at today. And we don't want to just hit a metric and then be able to say, hey, job done. We want to continue to grow polystyrene recycling. So this is a generational effort. This is not just a, hey, let's get off some lists. Let's work to solve our marketing issues. We really want to make our product circular, and that's our whole goal. So we also used RRS again to do an end market study, because one thing we found when we talked to regulators, CAA, so the Circular Action Alliance, who does all of the EPR, extended producer responsibility legislation or regulation in North America. They're the producer responsibility organization that manages that. They kept asking us, well, what are the end markets? What are the end markets? So we hired RRS to figure out what the end markets are. And the story is really very strong for both expanded polystyrene, so what people would traditionally call styrofoam, and then rigid. So think your red party cups, your clamshells, if you get a salad at a grocery store,
right?
Things like that. EPS has 80 companies in North America that are buying or processing or value adding EPS in some way, shape, or form. 117 different facilities. And that's 700 plus drop-off sites for EPS. And the word that RRS used was that is a robust end market. And that story really isn't out there as much as we would like it to be. So that's really why we're trying to push these conversations. Because most people think EPS or polystyrene not recyclable.
Right. Yeah.
But there are 80 companies, 117 facilities that say otherwise. And the EPSIA, so the EPS Industry Alliance, has data that shows that 31% of all EPS is recycled. So EPS transport packaging is recycled in North America. That's a huge number. That's higher than just about anything else when it comes to plastics. But most people don't know about it.
Right. I wonder if it's a case with the high percentage of recyclability that these things, they're typically large packaging items. They become an eyesore, and it's a hot button to get that dealt with. I mean, if you can crumple up a plastic bag into the size of a golf ball, who cares? But if you're dealing with packaging like in a refrigerator or other major appliance or television, we got to do something about this. It's a huge thing. And that could be a great impetus to drive the recycling. So that's great news. I wish we did that in Canada.
Well, you are doing it in Canada. So
really? Surprise me.
We don't have the data on Canada, but every big box store that delivers appliances, when they take the appliance out of the packaging, it's going to have EPS that was in there to keep that product safe while it was going through the supply chain.
Yep.
There's some data out there that shows moving from EPS transport packaging to any other material increases damage by up to 30%.
Right.
And if you think about shipping a washing machine, if you have 30% damage, in addition to like all of the other GHG, that's all the greenhouse gas emissions that went into making the material, now you're going to have to ship it again.
Yeah.
You have to remake it.
Yeah.
It's a huge negative for the world, not just for the industry. So these big box stores, when they unbox the appliances, when they come in, they're collecting these big chunks of EPS on site when they're densifying and then shipping out from there.
Okay.
There's multiple reasons to do that, not to mention that it's just the right thing to do because we can make it fully circular and send right back into EPS transport packaging. But it's bulky, right?
Right.
To your point, you can't fold it up and put it in your trash bin. It takes up a lot of space.
Yes.
And because it takes up a lot of space, it'll take up a lot of space in the landfill if you don't recycle it. When you densify it 40-1, you can ship it anywhere. But when you don't densify it, it's light and it takes up space.
Right.
And because of that, you're going to increase the amount of money you're spending to ship it to a landfill because it's just going to take up a lot of volume. And the way that any dumpster works is once the volume is full, that's when you have somebody come out and pick it up. And so if you're just filling it up with EPS, it's a big expense. So we're saving companies a lot of money by recycling this. And not to mention, you can sell the material. It's a valuable commodity.
Exactly.
That's being sold back into the market. So not only are you saving money on waste hauling, you're making money on selling what is now a commodity.
Right.
So it's a huge win for these companies.
Yeah. It's a win for everybody involved.
Yeah.
I mean, recycling in general is, but certainly with this, and I remember when you were on the show in January and we talked about, the challenges of shipping this prior to densifying it with basically a device that's a simple hydraulic ram compressing it, nothing fancy. I mean, you're not shipping a tractor trailer load full of air. It costs the same amount to move a trailer like 500 miles if it's full of air or full of something valuable. So yeah, we have to compress it first. And I appreciate your comments too about the Canadian market. I mean, certainly in our residential, we call it the blue box system, the recyclables, styrofoam is not accepted yet. And, some of this is, it's a question of political will and educating the legislators, that this is a viable thing. And then, of course, building the infrastructure behind it to make sure that it does work. And, then picking a community that's, a pilot to launch it with. Now,
the same argument goes to the MRF system. So if you get a shipment and let's say it's a 96-inch TV. That's a lot of EPS that goes into protecting that 30 pounds of e-waste.
Sure.
And so what you're going to need to do is if you put it into your blue bin, it's going to take up a lot of space.
Yeah.
And it's going to increase the cost to transport. There are MRFs that will accept EPS transport packaging. There are 2 that have been doing it for 15 to 20 years that I know of in Los Angeles area, in California.
Yeah.
But that's not really what we're looking to do. The drop-off locations are there.
Okay.
We want to expand that because I think that's a better way of managing these materials. Not only do you keep the stream cleaner because you have a local drop-off and you can almost sort on site.
Right.
And you can tell them, no, that's not EPS, that's EPP. Or that's EPE, or that's some sort of other engineered foam.
Yep.
But most people know what EPS
Sure.
They know the feel, they know the sound. It makes it easier to collect. But when you talk to a MRF, it doesn't make a ton of sense for them to bring it in to their system. What they do have in many cases is just a drop off out front, and then they'll densify on site and they'll sell from there.
Right.
So that's what we're looking to expand. The blue bin, or in some cases green, or whatever the color your recycle bin is, it's probably not the best option for polystyrene materials, just because of the fact that it's a smaller portion of the packaging market,
mm-hmm.
and the bulky nature of EPS. Both of those things go into it's just not great for a MRF, because a MRF wants to make money on throughput, and higher volume items are better for them. So PET and HDPE makes more sense for them because there's more of it.
Right.
And so what we have to do is we have to solve for hard to recycling in other ways, because when you talk to a regulator, they'll just say ban it, but then I'll say what I just told you about the 30% increase in damage
mm-hmm.
to these appliances, and they're like, well, that's not a good thing. Like, well, yes, that's the unintended consequence of just outright bans. Let's find ways to actually recycle it, and that's what we're doing.
Yeah, and I remember, when you were first on the show in January, we talked about, this problem that's actually got a very wide spectrum of elements to it, and some people only choose to focus on a very narrow element of it, like, oh, the plastic is bad, and they will ignore the fact that if they don't use this particular resource, this commodity formed in a certain way, there are a lot of unintended consequences. And I think that's part of the story that we in the industry have to talk about, it, regardless if it's polystyrene packaging or the use of plastics in healthcare, which it dramatically drives down the risk of secondary infection. And, can you imagine you go to the hospital, have a procedure done, and you contract something else, and, maybe a life-altering thing happens. But when you're using these throwaway things, the plastics, they really have a tremendously positive impact. If they didn't, they wouldn't be with us for this long. And it's just a question of being good stewards of that resource, and we certainly we're of the same opinion on that front. Now, as a Canadian, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at the number of drop-off sites for polystyrene foam EPS, do you see that California leads with a higher number of drop-off sites, or a higher per capita drop-off? Were they the first? Because we tend to think of California being, the super environmental, place. Are they really it, or is it pretty well evenly distributed across the U.S.?
It's pretty evenly distributed. When you look at the access for polystyrene recycling, California is a pretty high number.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the highest in the U.S., because that's where we did the study, is just U.S.
Mm-hmm.
to start.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look, there's the EPS Industry Alliance, on EPSindustry.org,
mm-hmm.
has a recycling map on their website where you can look and see every one of the drop-off locations, and you can put in your address, and it'll tell you what the closest recycling site is to you for drop-off. So you can dig through there. I have not really looked at the California piece, but I'm sure it's just in line with everything else. It actually might even be going down, and it's sad to say, but it's tough to do business in California. So there are a lot of manufacturers of plastic products that are leaving the state because of just how difficult it is to work there. And the big recyclers in the state of California are going bankrupt. Our Planet Earth, which was the largest recycler of PET thermoforms,
mm-hmm.
because PET thermoforms are much different than PET bottles.
Right.
A different IV. You can only use a small portion of PET thermoforms into bottles and keep your bottle grade.
Mm-hmm.
So it's tough in California to do just about anything right now. And that doesn't even mention SB 54, which is they call it an EPR bill, but it's more a packaging ban bill with some elements of EPR in it.
It sounds a little bit like the direction Canada's been going in for quite some time. I know, we had our own plastics ban, and it was, thankfully, and I say thankfully, not just as a plastics industry professional, but because I could see sort of a bigger picture, it was struck down by our Supreme Court. So now we're back to maybe just cooler heads, trying to do the right thing, putting materials where it makes sense, and increasing recycling efforts. Now, while we're on the topic of government, and I just want to add this disclaimer before I add the question, I'm not getting political. This is not the point of this question. But how is government, like in terms of the bureaucracy or municipal, have they been largely supportive or neutral or kind of a hindrance in launching things?
It's an interesting question. I think it really depends on the government you're talking about, because there's so many different governments and there's so many different opinions that are out there. I would say from the U.S. perspective, there's really no federal efforts to move the needle on plastics recycling. There are a couple bills that went through the EPW committee. That leadership group has done a lot of work to expand recycling and efforts there. But there's no real driver at the federal level. Different states, like California, I bash that California law a lot, but it's causing us to have conversations that we weren't having before. We're having to actually talk about making material circular, which is great. We need to do that. But we also need the laws to be feasible. Because California SB 54 is not feasible in its current state. The way that the law is written, it says that you have to have 30% recycled content by 2028 for your covered material category. So let's just take an example. PET thermoforms. I've talked about it a couple times in here. The national recycling rate for PET thermoforms per resource recycling is about 6%. And that was before our planet Earth went bankrupt, and they were the largest recycler, and they've ceased operation. So with that in mind, PET thermoforms will be technically illegal in California by 2028 with the way the law is currently written. Most people don't understand that because they think, well, PET bottles are recycled at 31%, and that's true. But that's not how the law is written. The law is written on covered material category. So PET bottles, okay. PET thermoforms, as of right now, would not be okay. And so it's kind of gotten us into a situation where there's only going to be 3 or 4 categories that will be accepted in California if they regulate in the way that the law is written. So you're going to have PET bottles, ETS transport packaging, old corrugated containers that go into making new paper, and that's it. Like glass isn't recycled at 30% in California. There's really no other material categories that are. So what are you going to do in California? So in that way, California and other governments have been a bit of a hindrance to making the circular economy happen. They're driving the right conversation, which is we need to be more circular and we need to recycle more. But it doesn't really help make it a reality, if you get where I'm going with that. So for polystyrene specifically, government has been a bit of an anti-sponsor in many cases because all they know is what they've been told. And what they've been told is polystyrene cannot be recycled. So there are a lot of efforts out there to ban polystyrene in some way, shape, or form, mostly foam food service, EPS, or what's called XPS, so extruded polystyrene foam. or some cases just the styrene or polystyrene in general, the whole molecule. And like we said, you've got the unintended consequences. So as soon as we go in and we start talking about what that would do to the economy in their state and what that would do to increase GHG emissions and all that, that conversation is pretty simple. But nobody's ever told them that.
Or you have politicians that are hell-bent on doing their thing to support what the general public thinks is the right thing, which isn't the right thing because they're not seeing the full picture. So, and you know, legislation, I tend to think is just a very blunt weapon. It doesn't account for nuance. It doesn't account for rapid development in technology. Technology will always move faster than the speed of legislation. There's just and
to be fair to legislators, they've got to be subject matter experts, or at least have subject matter experts on their staff for a lot of different things. And then they have to have the backbone to tell their constituents that what they think is wrong. And here's why.
Yep.
It's not really great to get reelected. It's not conducive to reelection to tell your constituency that they don't understand something. It doesn't work well for your political career to tell a group of people that, you know what, you're wrong, and here's why. And this is why I'm not going to support what you want me to do.
Right.
So in the whole compromise portion of government, specifically in the U.S., I don't deal as much in Canada, is gone. It's mostly, I need this for a political win. I need the soundbite. It's not about what's right or what's best anymore. It's about winning. Mm-hmm. And it's about being reelected. It's about fundraising, which is a real issue, because then we start making laws that are not in the best interest of people. And then when you try to get reelected and you've increased the costs of everything, you're going to lose there too. So you have to be good at telling that story. And by the politician has to be good at telling that story, I have to be good at giving the politician the information to make that case to their constituents. And that's the part that I think that we've struggled with. As an industry, we've fought a lot of these battles, but we're not really having conversations with people. We're not setting them up to advocate on our behalf, because that's really what we need them to do.
Sure. And then you've got the general public. The general public has this impression of certain types of plastics or certain applications, and that information has been fed to them. Probably now we're into decades of it. And it's been fed by well-meaning people, but who also have their own agenda. So I get it. It's a very, very complicated issue to unpack. And, you know, the mechanisms, when you break it down, just as you've done, it makes a lot of sense what you're saying. And when you're dealing with politicians that want to be reelected, they're going to say likely what's going to get them reelected. It's a career-ending move to do otherwise, unless you could
especially in California.
Yeah.
You go back and you tell, like, you're from Redondo Beach or Newport Beach, and you go back to your constituency, who's a bunch of surfers, and they see waste on the beach, and you tell them, well, we're not going to ban this material that you're seeing on the beach, and here's why. It's because our people put it there.
Right.
Your neighbors put it there, and if we get rid of it, it's going to cause this unintended consequence. That's a tough argument to make to people, that because it's an emotional thing. Because I know I have a visceral gut reaction when I see waste.
Oh,
it
sure.
bothers me.
Yeah.
And it should bother every one of us, because we are stewards for this world, and we have to do better than we did last year, the year before. We have to consistently get better, and we need to recycle more. But we also need to reduce our consumption. It's an inverted triangle for a reason. You reduce, reuse, and then recycle. We have to reduce consumption. And otherwise, it's just a never-ending battle, and we're never going to get better.
Well, of course, yeah, and very targeted reductions of use of
Yeah.
those materials. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're just about at the, well, we are at the half-hour mark. And I think just as we sort of, get to the tail end of this, I want to ask what's on deck for 2026. Like, do you have some specific goals or just a direction? I know you mentioned something before we started recording. If you want to share that, the floor is open.
So 2025, just a quick set. We've got 4 major projects that we're hopefully going to be able to announce all 4 of them this year. And that's infrastructure investment to increase polystyrene recycling in some way, shape, or form. Yesterday, we announced a partnership with Brave Industries. Brave is it's a small to medium business consortium in a way, where it's just a bunch of local recyclers that came together that wanted to work together to make the system better.
Okay.
And we've invested in 2 of their facilities to create drop-off points for polystyrene in Denver and in Baltimore, which are 2 EPR states. And we're focusing there, but if it works as well as we think and know it will, we're going to expand to the rest of their footprint. And they've got multiple facilities across the country. So we're really excited about that one. That one was actually announced publicly yesterday, so I can talk about that one.
Okay.
We also previously invested in Circular Colorado, which is a great organization. If your audience isn't aware of what they're doing, also should pay attention to that. They do milk runs throughout Colorado to pick up materials that are not widely recycled. And so they just drive, it's backhauled, and then they take them to aggregation sites and then make sure that material gets back into the circular economy, exactly what they're called, Circular Colorado.
Cool.
And that we're really excited about that one. Got 2 more that we hope to announce this year, and then we've got budget for next year. Then it's right back into who else do we need to support? Where else can we target it? We can target our financial to make the biggest impact to increase polystyrene recycling in North America. That's the whole goal. So we expect to do that again this year. So hopefully have 4 projects this year, hopefully have 4 projects next year. We're going to continue engaging with the Plastics Pact in all 3 countries in North America. So we're going to continue to work with the Canadian Plastics Pact, the U.S. Plastics Pact, and the new Mexican Plastics Pact, which we've got some exciting stuff in the pipeline with them that we're working on. So we're really excited about everything that we're doing there. And then I'm going to be the chair of the Polystyrene Recycling Alliance in 2026, which I'm really excited about.
Fantastic.
I'm going to continue to push. So Richard Shaw was our chair in 2025 from AmSty. He did a phenomenal job of leading us from our creation all the way through the end of year 1, and he's been hugely influential in our success so far. So I got to give him a shout out publicly. But he's going to be there with me, and we're going to continue to push this thing forward because nobody else is going to make polystyrene recycling happen.
Right.
We have to. We as an industry, as an entire value chain, from styrene producers to polystyrene producers to converters, brands, and recyclers. We need everybody that has an interest in polystyrene to be involved. And the more people we can get on board, the bigger the budget we have and the more we can invest. So that's really what the goal is for 2026. Continue to invest in the right places, continue to be public and to drive the positive conversation around polystyrene, but to continue to grow our ranks to make sure that we can make a bigger impact in year 2, 3, 4, all the way through 30, 40 years. Because that's really what this is. This isn't a short-term project by any means.
No. Like you said, multi-generational. And, what's the proverb, something about the individual who plants a tree knowing they'll never sit in the shade, that sort of the wise person. Well, that's what this is all about. I now, so I don't know if I can be of service to this project, but here I am in Canada. If you need a hand somehow in Canada, tap me on the shoulder. I'll jump in and do what I can.
I appreciate that. And honestly, just keep talking about plastics in the same way that you're doing right now. And the more you do that, even if it's not polystyrene, we talk about any plastics because we're all in this same boat together,
right,
as an industry. And if we don't change the narrative around our products, we're going to continue to be deselected.
Yes.
The one nice, the nice thing is we do have a very strong group of people in this industry. We've got just great engineers, scientists, advocates. We've got a lot of people, but we need more of us to talk.
Right.
And we need more of us to be public about the why of plastics, why of polystyrene. Why do we exist? What do we do? Why is it important for us to be here? And until we do that consistently and start to change that narrative, we're going to continue to lose. And so on my podcast, on the Redefining Plastics podcast, I just hit 50 episodes. And I know you hit 50, last year?
Yeah.
End of last year?
Yeah. This is what we're doing right now will be the 122nd episode.
122nd. Maybe I thought the 50 was 100. So now I've got some envy. I'm way behind.
Well,
I got to catch up.
In all fairness, I do one a week, the Tech Tip Friday. So that's included, not just the long form audio.
That's how you get away with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we need, because like Kurt, we can talk about this all we want, you and I.
Yeah.
But until the rest of the industry starts talking to their neighbor or starts talking to their local politicians and really starts to talk about why it's important for us to be here, nobody's going to understand why it's important. Because most people don't understand that we're going into cars to lightweight, or that we're going into, like you talked about, the infection risk.
Yes.
And sterile shipment of materials and EPS. When you're shipping vaccines, that's a huge deal.
Yeah.
You keep that product safe while it's going through the supply chain. It's important. And we need to talk about that. And even anti-plastics NGOs are now kind of backing off their message of ban all plastics, because they're even saying things to the what they're saying now is more, we got to get rid of single-use plastics, or we got to get rid of this, get rid of that. Because I think we are starting to win some of these discussions and some of the people over, but we got to just keep pushing. We cannot sit back. We have to be proactive in 2026.
Yeah, because the other side of the argument's got a long head start on us, a really long head start. So,
Justin, and if anybody's going to be at the food packaging, I think it's the Food Packaging Summit in Anaheim in February, I'm going to be speaking there. I'm going to be speaking on behalf of plastics and polystyrene specifically whenever I get the opportunity. So if anybody sees me out and about, I'd love to meet you, love to talk to you, and love to talk about how we can continue to change this narrative.
Very good. So I hope everyone heard that. You can reach out to Justin and let's get momentum behind this. It's obviously not just for our industry. We bring a value add, and we have to communicate that value add so there's greater efficiency in every supply chain that we're a part of. It's not about trying to sell another truckload of plastic. I know that makes some people very happy, but it's being strategic and demonstrating that our commodity, our family of commodities, bring value, and without them, we actually can have a far worse impact environmentally. So you spend some money to protect what you make, and all these good arguments around packaging, and it's backed up by a lot of data, a lot of numbers. We just have to be continually better and better about managing that resource. I think that's the message. That's really it.
Yeah, and I think the final point that I want to make to the audience is every single one of you has the ability to do exactly what I'm doing.
Yep.
I don't have any specific skill set that makes me better to carry this message forward. I just have the passion for the industry and I know about the products.
Right.
So, like when I started this whole thing, I had, I think, 800 connections on LinkedIn about a year ago, and I'm up to 2,000 something. And I've got 70,000 views plus now on YouTube. And it's not because I did anything special. It's just because I put myself out there.
Yep.
And everybody that's listening to this has that ability to do that. Like I was trying to find a plastics news article that was written about one of the speeches that I gave a couple months ago. And you know how they do the AI generated Google now where you can see all that stuff? And the first thing that it said, I think it said something to the effect of Justin Riney is a prominent plastics advocate. And I was thinking to myself, a year ago, I hadn't said any of this. I hadn't put any kind of articles out there. I hadn't done a single podcast. I hadn't talked publicly about plastics. Mm-hmm. And how quickly things change just by doing it.
Yes. Yeah.
So every single person that listens to this can do that. And if you make a podcast and it's better than mine and it gets more views and reaches a bigger audience, great. Let's do it. Let's do more of it.
Exactly. This isn't about ego. This is about communicating a message and protecting what we've got here. Like
exactly right.
Resources, our planet, our environment, everything. Exactly. Justin, on that absolutely wonderful note, thank you so much for coming back on the podcast. You're a friend of the show. Welcome back anytime. And I wish you all the best in 2026 in your new role as chairman of the PSA. That's exciting news. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'll have you back on my show too, so we can talk more. We got to keep supporting each other. That's what we're here for.
Absolutely. And I did a big upgrade on my web camera so I can actually be recorded and have a better video than I think what we did last time. But that's another conversation. But I would absolutely love to.
I got my 4K camera that I never turn on just because I don't think anybody needs to see my face in 4K.
And on that bombshell.
Yeah.
That's it for this episode. I'd like to thank Justin of the Polystyrene Recycling Alliance for coming on the show and giving us an update. I always enjoy speaking with a fellow industry professional. Please check out psrecycling.org to learn more about this initiative. If you have questions or comments about today's show or a suggestion for an upcoming episode, please message me through That Plastics Guy on LinkedIn or, of course, on my personal page, Kurt Stahle. Please consider following That Plastics Guy on YouTube and Simco Plastics, my company, on Facebook and Instagram. And you can also subscribe to our newsletter through the website. And speaking of newsletters, we are working on a holiday newsletter that's going to come out probably early to mid-December. Obviously, we're not going to get it out past the holiday time frame. It will definitely be ahead of that. And there is some very exciting news to share, another web presence, and our first foray into the wonderful world of AI. So keep an eye open for that. Thanks again for listening. Take care, and let's be good to each other.